But I like VOTOMs. If you search my channel, I have a lot of 1/48 scale VOTOMs and even some other more deformed ones. But anyways, Hasegawa has this collaboration there and has made MechaWeTros look like VOTOMs, so it's kind of interesting. Let's see what we have here. Yeah, I remember these. I actually have bought this kit. It was by Hasegawa. Never mind. Alright, anyways, I'll show those later. 2023 is when this set came out here. They're on the third wave already, so I believe this is the first of the VOTOMS MechaWeTros, but I have the second one, and we'll have to see if this is good. Maybe I'll buy the third one as well. Alright, model length, all the dimensions. So 88 parts, not so bad. Little RFID anti-theft thing, maybe. Let's take a look here. I thought it was like a book, but no, it's just a giant pamphlet. So if you lose your instruction manual, pause and look at this. It comes with water slide decals, which is good, and here's some paint codes if you want to follow those. Yeah, the parts. So then what is this? Oh, additional instructions. So this is to assemble Chirico. Why does it say level 2? Level 3? Well, I don't know, but this is interesting. These, whatever's drawn here. This is a really basic one. We're at a level 2, but level 3 is something called MechatroChunk and MechatroChubu. I guess those are larger MechaWeTros. Alright, I didn't know they branched out. So it's actually a lot more orange than I thought it would be, but Chirico wears an orange jumpsuit, so I suppose it's very fitting. It is 1/35th scale, which is a very common armor scale, like tanks and war vehicle scale. These are polycaps, so I guess you can actually pose the thing without it maybe... Well, we'll have to see how well it poses later. And the plastics in general look pretty good. There's also, yeah, human figures that go inside of these things. The pilots, pretty much. Okay. Oh, what's going on here, though? That doesn't look good at all. So, if you don't want to paint stuff, I like these things, these little nail buffing pads. It's very fine grit, but then just the white foam side, it's slightly abrasive, but it tends to polish up the part. Right, so that's something you can do. You can buy a big pack of those pretty cheap. Alright, so this is no reason to look at that. All the plastics are good enough. Very small water slide decal kit, and VOTOMS has its own like alphabet, you know, it's not English, or what would be, I forget what those are called. Roman? Regular letters I'm used to. Let's see, I am going to open this because I'm curious about the optics. So far I don't see any clear parts, and that's pretty a distinguishing feature of VOTOMS, having the scopes and stuff. So yeah, the eyes, I'm curious if they're like colored plastic. Alright, so here we do have a clear. runner. So maybe those are optics, but they're not molded in color. They're just clear. So you're gonna have to add red or blue or something, most likely, that I can tell. Yeah, alright. I'm gonna fast forward the video as usual, clip off the parts, and then I'm not sure if I'm gonna paint it, honestly. I might see what it looks like just the way it is, but you know, then again, it's very glossy. When I think of a tank, I think it should be dirty, right? But these look a little shiny, so maybe I'll rattle can clear coat them just to weather them down, and maybe I'll just leave these scratches because I want it to be like a used vehicle. these aren't actually the model kits at the start of this video, right? So these are Hasegawa MechatroWeGo. And I actually built these before COVID, before I even started this YouTube channel. But I wanted to show these because you need to know what a regular MechatroWeGo looks like, and then we'll figure out what the differences are with these VOTOMS variations. In fact, I had these before I even started collecting VOTOMS model kits and toys. So, yeah. Anyways, it seems to be a creation by Hasegawa, and let me show some images here online. And they've been busy since they first came out. You know, a lot of some different castings, somewhat different, like Evangelion collaborations. What the heck is that thing? Right? A racing version up there. So yeah, you got a bunch of cool little things, and basically, you know, they're little robots that I think were originally supposed to be like for kids to commute to school with, if I recall. I mean, it's been like 5 years at least. So, and so anyways, you can see here on this basic one, it's, you know, this little platform comes down and the kid gets on, goes in, and then it's a walking robot. And here it is in this closed form. So let me show here. So the head will pop open, and you can see, you know, the kid's head in there. So that's the intention. They even have tail lights, as you can see there. But oddly, no headlights unless the eyes are supposed to be headlights. And so unfortunately, they have these useless two-pronged hands or claws, and that's that. Okay, so now you understand what a regular, I guess, base MechatroWeGo is, and they come with these little figures. So 1/35 again is a scale for armor, usually like model tanks and other war vehicles. But VOTOMS here is a Japanese franchise of adults getting into robots and basically fighting, like weapons of war and sometimes competition, like gladiator fights in these robots. So I'm gonna pull out realistic VOTOMs later. Let's start with this one. Chirico QV is the star of the VOTOMS cartoons, and he wears this funky, or everyone in that cartoon wears a jumpsuit. You know, like this is their uniform. It's an orange uniform, and they wear a gas mask, and this is an oxygen tank because, excuse me, I guess in that apocalyptic future, oxygen is rare. So, all right. So this one is definitely different in the fact that this mask / eye set, it can peg into the body here. I actually did glue this, but be mindful the glue tears into this decal, and actually this decal is not the greatest. I applied Mark Fit Super Strong to this decal like 10 times, and no matter how much decal softener I put on there, these things, the wrinkles will not go away. They just won't. It's too much curvature. So if you wanted it to be perfect, you'd really want to mask off this plastic piece, and spray paint it. But I did not. And also, the glue totally tore into that decal right there. So they're very thin decals by Hasegawa. I lost one just because it folded over itself as I was applying it. So be very careful on the decals. So these eyes are nice, you know, just like the original ones. They have plastic inserts, so that's neat. And then this pops in here, but you'll see there's this tab on the back of the O2 tank, and that can actually slide into that slot that's standard on this belly piece of all MechatroWeGos. But if you pull it out of that slot, then yes, you could open it up and have one of those kids in there and you can see it. But I'm going to always just pose it closed because I already have the standard ones that can open with the kid in it. I'm going to have to throw away my Tamiya panel liner. That stuff destroys certain types of plastics. And you can see here, it just seeped in and cracked this one. I even clear coated this thing. So everywhere else it seems to be okay. But yeah, that Tamiya stuff is horrible. I'm gonna have to buy a water-based panel liner. I decided to put the VOTOMS decal on the back of this one, and they provide a whole bunch of extra VOTOMS character, script, or whatnot. You know, the franchise has its own stylized lettering. Alright. And yeah, so the taillights there. Yeah, there are decals for these things, but I think they're not even worth putting on, so I just used orange paint for these little turn signal areas. Granted, the clear coat tore through that one. Okay, so articulation wise, after the head, naturally you'd have the body, the main body pop open. And what's nice about these things is you can actually get in there just by squeezing this, and you see it's got these two, I guess, pieces is the best way I can describe it, that go around those two polycaps. And those polycaps are holding the helmet on, just through friction fit. Alright, so if you want to, you could go and detail up, you know, the padding back there and whatever it is. But I'm going to always pose these particular ones closed. And so you could also slide that out, and there's a different piece to have it come down. But again, I already have the standard ones for that. Alright, yeah, nice little side vents, I guess, that would go to whatever motor is supposed to be back in this area. And then maybe these are supposed to be the exhaust vents up in there. Okay, now there's a polycap here, and so naturally you can have a little in and out and full rotation. This is just a hinge joint here, just bends around 90 degrees. The hands are, if you want to call them that, there's just a round peg here, so you can rotate that. And then there's a round peg here, so you could theoretically clamp those, but there's so much friction. I don't want to move them. I'm afraid they're going to crack. So that's the way these hands are going to pose forever, apparently. Alright, so then same system here, just a ball peg, and so all the way around and all that stuff, in and out, and then a hinge again for the knee. But you can see bends a little bit forward, but back not even 90, not even like 30 degrees. It really bad articulation there. There's a ball peg here as well, so a little front foot back, and tiny bit of rocker, but it collides with the armor quite a bit. You can see the foot details are pretty nice there. So what makes this difference from a standard one, all this down here is pretty much the same as a regular MechaWeTro. The only thing that's different really is this headpiece, the headpiece and the mask attached to it. So, yeah, something sticky in there. I'm gonna just shut that like that and never open that again. So that's Chirico QV if he became a robot. So in the instructions, there's an image explaining you don't have to cut all the pieces off. In fact, let me just quickly go over it. Yeah, so all these sky blue areas, those are just extra parts. So they're going into this box for maybe a future kit bashing or something. There is one important part of these in the assemblies guides that you really have to pay attention, apparently. It's putting together that shin area. So the shin, the inner part of that shin is this, and there's a tab you have to take off, and it's offset to one side. So same here. Luckily they're actually labeled with a small R and a small L. But the tab is, I guess, just to help you recognize which one is the left and the right. And if you look really carefully, these side panels actually have the left and right marked. So I guess if you mess those up, you know, you're gonna have to take it apart and do it again. None of this stuff requires glue. I didn't really glue too much, but some parts were loose, so I did decide to glue like this piece here. If you don't play with it a lot, you probably don't need glue at all, but it's better to be safe than sorry. They're so small you don't want to lose them. Okay, so now we have the Scopedog, of course, and this has quite a few different parts from a regular MechaWeTro. Very many, actually. So the headpiece is quite different. Instead of a small dome round insert, it's a totally different molded piece, as you can see with these two grooves. Unfortunately, unlike a real Scopedog, this gray piece doesn't slide up and down. It's just always part of this. it did come with decals, green and red, but I decided to add some jewel beads instead. It's just better than a flat decal. I wouldn't probably even use the decals. It'd be better to just paint those, I think. But alright, so yeah, again, you could have the character in there. You could peek in and see the person's head, but not bothering myself. Alright, so what else is different is the shoulder insert here. This is like a VOTOMS kind of thing where it has these carrying loops. These are just friction fit, so you could lose those, but I didn't glue these because you wouldn't be able to pivot them like that. The forearms are totally different. So it's got the little ejection thing for the fist punch thing. The hands actually grip things, right? So these are quite nice. So that's quite different. It is possible you can twist this little piece a little bit back, but only like 5-10 degrees. Same with the lower leg one. I think this can actually pivot a tiny bit. That's it. But all right, so let's see. Now the belly's all the standard weight stuff. This is also a different piece because it has the carrying hooks for a backpack. All right, so I have some red paint behind those clear pieces. The legs are standard, but the feet are clearly a unique casting from the standard MechatroWeGo. So yeah, like half of this particular MechatroWeGo is a unique casting compared to the standard model kits. So Hasegawa went through the effort of definitely making it different. Yeah, so again, I'm not going to put a character in there right now. I don't feel like painting extra ones. It's just going to always pose it this way. It even came with an extra mask, I think, so if you don't want to, yeah, if you want the three scope version, you can have that. The problem is with this one, you don't have the antennae, so that's why I didn't choose to use this one. It's weird. I don't know why they wouldn't. Wait a second. I think I could actually put these on here. Yeah, I'm a moron. Never mind. I wasn't paying attention. I have a suspicion instead of these two gray pieces, I could just pop this on and then have the three sensors. Oh well. I don't feel like messing with it. Yeah, maybe I'll do it later. So for both of these, after I assembled them, I decaled them, then I sprayed regular water-based Vallejo clear coat on them, then I rattle canned them because the Vallejo matte finish isn't matte. This is a spray can, rattle can stuff, and this is really matte, so it's a lot better this way. But if you don't clear coat it with Vallejo or some hobby-based stuff, it'll tear right through the decals. So that's why you want to clear coat it with a safe clear coat first, or the rattle can. The solvent in that stuff just tears through decals, and if you don't shake the can enough, you get this white splatter. But it looks kind of used, so that's fine for me. In fact, this looks a little too clean to be a fighting tank, walking tank. Alright, so these things, there are inserts here. Well, not a poly cap, it's just a straight shaft for these hands. Yeah, I guess that's it. So there's a poly cap, and it's not a poly cap, but it's a softer plastic, and so you could pivot that. The hand is actually three pieces. You might want to glue those together so the thumb doesn't fall off. And so you could make a regular Scopedog rifle. It does come with the hand grab up here, I think, but I replaced it with the part here that makes it look like a squirt gun. Although it's kind of weird that I added the ammo canister. So maybe you don't want that, but then you have a gaping hole right there. So it's kind of a squirt gun slash regular machine gun. It's supposed to actually have more paint apps, but I didn't bother. So it's nice that you can have a MechatroWeGo actually hold something because this one has hands. I almost feel like they should add hand parts to all the regular MechatroWeGos because you can't carry anything with two claws, tongs like that. It'd be like trying to grip something with salad tongs. So height-wise, yeah, they're quite small, 1/35, because these are meant for teenagers and not adults. Yeah, this one to the head is probably 8 centimeters, or a little over 3 inches. Another thing about the Scopedog, it actually has more articulation because the armor doesn't collide with itself. But this is as far of a bend it can get for the entire leg. This knee joint is essentially pretty worthless. So you're not going to get any extreme poses with this thing. If it was running, it doesn't have a hole for a peg stand. I guess it looks kind of like it's running, right? But yeah. And then splaying out the legs will only go that far, and this much in. And then because the elbow doesn't bend much, you can't really cross over or grip the front end of the weapon. So yeah, not the greatest playability, but it's a model kit and not an action figure. At least you can do that. Like the punch feature in the VOTOMS franchise. Yeah, okay, that's cool. Alright, so here's an Actic Gear 148 scale. So they actually look like they could fit in the same universe, because this fits an adult and this is supposed to fit a teenager. In fact, actually, you can open up these Actic Gears. These are some of the coolest small scale toy / action figures. So look how small that human being is as an adult. Sorry, I lost focus as always. I think I painted that figure though. And then if we look at a teenager in 1/35th scale, right, so there's quite a vast difference. I think you can actually buy model kits maybe of 1/35th scale VOTOMS. Or actually no, they're finished figures. I just forget, 35th Max or something? I forget the brand that does it. But this would be a much bigger, it'd probably be like 6 inches if this was a 1/35th scale Scopedog. And then this is an Obsolete collaboration. Obsolete was this funky little YouTube animation series. You can watch it obviously on YouTube. It was made by them. It's really cool actually. There's only a few episodes and not too long. I recommend you watch them. But anyways, MechatroWeGo did this collaboration of these Obsolete robots, but this one's supposed to look like a Scopedog as well. I honestly can't remember if these had a scale rating or not. But it also holds an adult. Well, I don't know if I can open this hatch, but I'm pretty sure it came with an adult figure. I think this could have been 1/35th scale. Yes, I had to look it up on my own channel. I've reviewed so many things on this channel, I can't remember everything. But these are 1/35th scale, and here's an adult in that scale. So actually, this being a man, here's a better comparison between 1/48th and 1/35th. It's a huge difference in scaling, right? Doesn't sound like too much, 35 to 48, but physically quite a big difference. And so these are actually really compactly designed, these Obsoletes, but there's literally a figure inside that green housing. Yeah. Well, considering VOTOMS robots don't exist in the real world yet, I think they all fit in. All three brands, you know, they're just funky little walking tank-like devices with people in them. I think it's really cool. Okay, well, I mean, they're okay. It wasn't too difficult to put together the model kits. They're engineered very well. The parts have nice friction fits. The instructions are very well laid out. They make perfect sense. Just for me, don't use Tamiya panel liner, or you have these ugly cracks. Yeah, you gotta throw away. I gotta throw away that stuff. I do have the second wave of these VOTOMS MechaWeTros, so that will come later on. And thanks for watching today. All right, bye.